I have great news for those of you that got a PPP loan or Paycheck Protection loan and want to have it forgiven. The rules will relax, and that makes it easier for you to turn your loan into a grant, which otherwise means you don't have to pay it back. I'm Scott Rattigan, the founder of Functional Lawyer, and let's get right into it. So earlier this month, the Congress and the President enacted the Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act, which actually eases a lot of the restrictions requiring you to fulfill in order to get your loan forgiven. So there are 6 parts of the act that are relevant to business owners that got those loans. So let's get right into them. And your restrictions are a little bit looser, which will allow you to meet the thresholds, actually, because I know it was a little bit tight for a lot of business owners, myself included. So now, under the new act, you now have 24 weeks to spend your funds. Before, it was 8 weeks to spend your funds. So if you remember, and you've probably done the application, you could apply for up to 2.5 months of payroll. And then you had 8 weeks to spend it. Now you have up to 24 weeks to spend your money on payroll and the other allowable categories of expenses under the act. Before, you were required to spend 75% on payroll itself and some payroll taxes. The other 25% could be spent on mortgage or rent, a few utilities, and a few other categories in limited number. Now, under the new Flexibility Act, it's only 60%. You only have to spend 60% of your loan amount on payroll and payroll-related expenses, and the other 40% can be spent on those other categories like rent, mortgage, which will probably be the bigger parts of those exceptions as well. The covered period of the loan now has been extended to December 31st from June 30th. So you get an extra 6 months under the loan, and you don't have to make employer payroll tax payments through the end of 2020. You do have to pay those taxes, you just don't have to make those payments now. Your business will not lose any forgiveness eligibility if you can actually prove that some employees did not want to come back, or that really what it's effectively saying is that there's no head count required. If you had 5 employees, you tried to bring them all back, but now only 4 came back, and if you can show that that person did not want to come back, now you may still get forgiveness under the loan, because Congress is also aware of the unintended consequences of, as I'm sure you've been following, some people make more money on unemployment with the extra money from Congress than they did at work, so they're choosing to stay home. So you won't be penalized for that as the business owner. And the payback period for new loan applicants has been extended from 2 years to a minimum of 5 years if you're not seeking forgiveness. So if you just took this as a loan and are not planning to seek forgiveness, then you have 2 years to pay it off under the old plan. Now you have up to and more, 5 years or more, to pay it off under the new Flexibility Act. Excuse me. So why did they make all these changes? Well, as time for forgiveness came closer and closer, a lot of businesses realized that they were very tight on that 75% threshold, and obviously some people were staying home, so they could not meet the headcount or the pre-pandemic employment numbers before. And so Congress decided to make it a little bit easier for small businesses to qualify for the forgiveness of the loan. So that's great news for everybody. Make sure you follow the rules, the forgiveness application that you'll get from either your institution or from further guidance from the federal government, and follow the rules on that application process exactly. But just so you know, you have a little bit more time, and you only have to spend 60% on the payroll expenses, which is the biggest part, I think, because 2.5 months of payroll to pay 8 weeks of payroll, that could get really tight, because 2.5 months is obviously longer than 8 weeks. The loan amount would be 2.5 months, and then 8 weeks is the amount of time you had to spend it in. And so a lot of businesses were under the gun for that, especially if they couldn't bring back some of their employees. So if you fall under those categories, great news for you, at least in this context. Hope you're all doing great under the pandemic. If you have any legal or business questions, follow me over at functionallawyer.com, and have a great day.